We got 5 minutes on the clock. What is your name and what is your podcast show?
I'm Kevin Tumlinson, and I'm one of the hosts of the Writers Inc. podcast.
The Writers Inc. podcast show. Now we're going to talk about launching. What made you launch that show?
So, true confession, I was not one of the ones who launched that show specifically. I came on board later, but I've launched probably 100 different podcasts over the years. And the thing that's always driven me is the topic. For example, I had a long-running show called the Wordslinger Podcast, which became very popular in the indie author space. And I launched that show specifically because I wanted to talk to people about how they were operating their businesses as authors or outside entrepreneurs or something like that. It was an education thing for me more than anything else.
Yeah. Did I hear correctly? You've launched 100 podcast shows?
At least over the past 10 years or so. Yeah. Since podcasting became a thing, I've probably launched at least 100 over the year. I no longer host all of those, but I have been a part of lots and lots of podcasts. We're going to say at least 100.
Wow. I've launched 15 and I thought I was a champion. Congratulations.
Hey, I still think you're a champion.
But man, holy moly. All right. Out of all the shows you've launched, which one has been the best show and worst show and why?
Best show was one I did actually for a company called Draft Digital called Self-Publishing Insiders. And it's still running. Although I'm no longer a host on that show, that's only a recent development, but that show helps thousands and thousands of authors, which is the community I'm part of. So that's the one I've always been the most proud of.
Wow. So the best and the worst, and you've done hundreds of them. Do you ever get pinged by someone who on a show that you launched 10 years ago and they're like, hey,
yes.
Could I be on your show?
Regularly. I still get people who ask to be on the Wordslinger podcast because that one was always the most popular one I was known for.
Yeah.
I became the voice of indie publishing on that show. That's what I was. That's the nickname I was given.
Give us your intro in your voice that you did.
Oh my gosh. I actually paid somebody to do an intro, and it was something like, the guy who created Pants Optional and did a whole spiel. And unfortunately that guy's not around anymore, but yeah, that was the one I was known for. It was all about the story here. That was the whole pitch, getting the story behind your business.
Wow, I'm meeting a true legend. Out of all the shows that you've launched, how many episodes or interviews or things do you think you have personally been on?
Wow. Been on or conducted? Because I've done both quite a bit, and I mean it's in the thousands, easily the thousands. Because the various podcasts. At one point, I was either a host or co-host of 8 different shows at the same time. And so I was doing every day of the week, I was podcasting. Every day of the week, I had a new guest, someone from somewhere in some industry. It ranged from publishing to sometimes I interviewed an octogenarian with a program called Never Leave the Playground. So I've had a lot of and I've interviewed a lot of famous people, a lot of famous authors in particular.
Yeah.
Thousands. The answer is thousands. I've lost count.
If you could go back and just yank one out of existence where you're like, I wish I would have never published that, what would that one be?
I don't want to name any names, but there was somebody that did not get the concept of the show, showed up late. The audio was terrible. They were taking a walk next to a busy highway. But the information itself and the guests themselves, I really wanted to exist. So,
yeah, true. All right, one more time, your name and your podcast show.
I am Kevin Tumlinson, and right now I'm a co-host on the Writers Inc. podcast.
Super cool. Hey guys, if you have a podcast show out there and you'd like to come on this show to share your story, a little bit of tactics, all under 5 minutes on growth or launching or monetize, head on over to podcasthostarmy.com, fill out a quick form, and maybe you could come on the show next. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode of 5 Minutes or Less. Cheers.